we now have one version that I was using before and a new version from Folkwanshan. So we'll see what happens. Okay, so we're at 32. So here it says, if after I have obtained Buddhahood, in my pure land there should be magnificent palaces towering up from the ground to the void. Also the lakes, winding streams, blossoming trees, and all other properties which are compounded of various jewels and thousands of kinds of perfume, minutely embellished in the most wonderful state, surpassing all heavenly and human worlds. The scent of the perfumes should thoroughly pervade the worlds of 10 directions, whereof the bodhisattvas, having smelt them, thereby directed their minds to Bodhi. Otherwise, may I not attain awakening. Okay, this one says, should I attain Buddhahood from the ground up to the sky, the palaces, towers, ponds, streams, flowers, trees, and all the myriad things in my land would all be made of an immeasurable number of various jewels and hundreds of thousands of kinds of incense. Their adornments would be marvelously exquisite, surpassing those of humans and heavenly beings. Their fragrances would permeate throughout the worlds of 10 directions, and bodhisattvas who perceive them would all cultivate the Buddha way. If this should not be the case, may I not attain perfect awakening. Okay, so again, describing the beauties and splendors of his Pure Land, and especially this thing about the scent and how the scent inspires the bodhisattvas to practice. And it was making me think, because we always talk about the perfume of pure ethical conduct. You know, the people who keep good ethical conduct have a very pleasant scent around them. So, you know, it reminds me of that. And ethical conduct is the foundation of the path. And on that, you're going to build everything else. And so here, too, all those beautiful things in the Pure Land are the results of the merit created by Amitabha and the bodhisattvas. So, again, not just thinking, oh, what a beautiful place, but really thinking of the kind of mind that has the realizations that can manifest that kind of place. Okay, then 33, if I should attain Buddhahood, sentient beings in immeasurable, inconceivable Buddha worlds of the 10 directions, whose bodies are touched by my radiant light, would become soft and pliant in their bodies and minds, to a degree surpassing that of humans and heavenly beings. If this should not be the case, may I not attain perfect awakening. Okay, so by Amitabha, the natural radiance that's coming from Amitabha's light, may the bodies and minds of all the beings in his Pure Land become soft and pliant. Okay, so when it says, may the bodies become soft and pliant, I don't think that means that we no longer need hand cream and stuff like that. But it could be referring, to becoming soft and pliant to the higher training in ethical conduct, because flexibility, pliancy, this is a very strong factor in having concentration. Yeah, so we talk about the pliancy of body and of mind in developing serenity, and then also the dhyanas. So it could be symbolizing how the residents in Sukhavati excel in their states of concentration. 34. If I should attain Buddhahood, yet sentient beings in immeasurable, inconceivable Buddha worlds of the 10 directions who hear my name, would not attain the bodhisattva's fortitude of the non-arising of phenomena and the profound dharanis, may I not attain perfect awakening. So here it's talking again about hearing Amitabha's name. So again, I don't think it means just, you hear somebody walk by and say, hey, do you know about Amitabha? It's, really thinking about the qualities of this Buddha. And then should they not attain the fortitude of the non-arising of phenomena? So that is a stage in realizing emptiness. Because when you realize emptiness, it necessitates great fortitude, because the realization totally alters our way of seeing ourselves and the world and people around us. And to actually realize emptiness, which is what is meant by the non-arising of phenomena, that phenomena don't arise inherently, you have to have a lot of merit and a very strong mind. Yeah, if you don't have a lot of merit and you haven't really understood deeply why ignorance is a cause of samsara, and how the realization of emptiness, annihilates ignorance. If we don't have that firmly in our mind, and not just intellectually, but really grasping it firmly in our mind, then even you have just glimpses of emptiness, it can become very frightening, okay? And so that's one reason why they really emphasize in our training to have a very robust idea of karma and its effects, a very good understanding of what samsara is, and, its disadvantages, of bodhicitta, all these things that concern our conventional way of relating to things. Because it takes a lot of, that understanding has to be firm in order to have the fortitude to realize emptiness, because of the power of that, that realization. It isn't just, things are empty. The way I used to see things wasn't correct. It's not like that. It's like, wow, I thought things existed like this, and they don't at all, period. And, so we have to have that internal strength. And then the one about the dharanis, the profound dharanis. Dharanis can sometimes mean mantras. So here it calls, it's not very helpful, that translation at all. So it may mean mantras, it may mean other kinds of teachings, I'm not sure. Okay. Then 35. Okay, so this one's a bit controversial. If I should attain Buddhahood, and there would be women in immeasurable, inconceivable Buddha worlds of the 10 directions who hear my name, rejoice with faith, generate the Bodhi mind, and are weary of being women, yet after the end of their lives would they again be reborn as women, may I not attain perfect awakening. And this one says, similarly, it says, and having turned their minds toward Bodhi, therefore dislike their own female lives, when they be born again in their next life, should not be incarnated into masculine body, then may I not attain awakening. Okay, so there's many ways to understand this. And I remember years ago leading a retreat in Cloud Mountain. Some of you may have been there on Amitabha, and going through these 48. And there was a huge discussion. There was one person, well, more than one person, who was very upset, saying that this implies that women are inferior, and that everybody should want to be a man, and it's disparaging women, and saying we don't belong in Buddhism, and da-da-da-da-da. Okay, so few people were like that. Then there was somebody else who said, wow, I find that so compassionate, because as a woman, I found that there's been difficulties, you know, with how men treat you and sexual harassment and then, you know, pregnancy and having a baby and getting tied down with a baby. And Amitabha's compassion, you know, for women is showing in making this kind of precept. Okay? And then His Holiness, when he speaks about how in some Buddhist teachings it talks about the advantage of being male, he says it's because, you know, in previous times men had stronger bodies, so they could be more dominant. But nowadays that really doesn't make any difference because war is basically old-fashioned. And you know, and now with also tools and weapons, women can, you know, be physically as aggressive as men can. Yippee. Yeah, we can kill people as easily as men can. Oh, what a great gender equality. You know, but what he's saying is that societies, because of sentient beings' way of thinking, they had prejudice against women. You know, but society's prejudice against women did not mean that women were inferior or incapable, because the Buddha very clearly stated that he's clearly stated that women could become liberated when he established the Bhikshuni order. Okay? So, you know, you can go back and forth with this whole thing. How does the Buddha see women, and are women inferior, and blah, 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 blah. Okay? When I read this, okay, it's something, it's one of Amitabha's unshakable resolves. And he's saying, and he's basically saying there are no women in Sukhavati. Yeah? Because all the women will have been reborn as men. But if you don't have women, then you also don't have men. Because men and women, it's a good example of mutual dependence. They're established in relationship to each other. So it's not that Sukhavati has only men, because there's no need for men. Yeah, because they don't procreate by men and women in Sukhavati. You're born there by the power of your, you know, your virtue and so on. So I think it's kind of funny to talk about it because there wouldn't be men or women in Sukhavati at all. The whole thing would be totally irrelevant. Don't you think? Yeah. My own experience is, okay, you read certain things in certain texts, but Buddhism always exists within a culture. It doesn't exist independent of culture. And previous cultures, our own included, were very discriminatory against women. But again, that doesn't mean that women are less capable. It just means that society has biases. And as we all know, society's values and so on are not always to be trusted because they're often based on misconceptions and prejudices and things like that. So I think that the basic thing is, whatever body you're born into, if you're a human, be glad you have that human rebirth and use your life to the best of your advantage. And if outside people, for whatever reason, are discriminate against your gender or your race or your ethnicity or all the gazillions of things people can discriminate against, ignore it and have your own self-confidence and go ahead. And that's about the only way to deal with it, you know? Yeah, so that's my view. Because if you know, I went through the stage of, you know, being ignorant and not noticing it. Then I went through the stage of being angry at it. Then I just kind of said, forget it, you know. If you have your own internal self-confidence, then you just go ahead. And I remember one incident that I remember with a lot of humor. oh, it must have been like in 1989 when I was doing a tour in the U.S. And I was at one Dharma center, and there was another laywoman and I forget who it was, talking to one geshe. And the geshe, you know, because Tibetan men are in Tibetan culture, and Tibetan culture is basically biased against women. Okay? So the geshe was saying, well, you know, whenever there's violent conflict, the women run away and the men fight. And for that reason, the men are more intelligent and they're better. And the woman and I looked at each other and we said, actually, we think the women are the intelligent ones to get out of that stupid stuff, you know, and just forget about fighting and killing each other altogether. So it was really kind of funny how what he was judging women on, we thought was actually something that was quite good. Yeah? Anyway, yeah. Let's just use our abilities in the best way we can to actualize the path and to benefit sentient beings. And sentient beings say this, and sentient beings say that. And if you let everything other people say bug you, you're going to get so weighed down and not have any enthusiasm and lightness, and you're not going to get anywhere. Yeah, because everything, you know, one person says you're good, one person says you're bad, one person says do this, the other one says that, one person says you're superior, the other says you're inferior. It's like, you know, just believe in yourself and go forward.